Good evening, Crime Talk aficionados. Thank you for joining us. It is our Tuesday night live show after dark. Once again, thanks for joining us. My name is Scott Reich, and this is Crime Talk. We want to thank everyone for joining us this evening. We know that there's lots of things that you could be doing, and the fact that you take time to be with us is greatly appreciated. We do, in fact, appreciate that. All right. So it's our Tuesday night live program. Obviously, there are a couple of things that I can certainly talk about, but sometimes we get a little distracted. I'm sorry. But if you have questions, please put them in the chat. We will do our best to see them. And although we're certainly not asking for them, it is a little easier when there is a super chat behind them, just because it gets highlighted on my screen. And we'll try to answer any question that you may have. A couple of things that I would like to touch upon, and a lot of it has to do with the Chris Rock, Will Smith matter, and it's just basically some of the questions that were in the comment section that I think deserve answering. And I'm sure just about everybody has seen the video clip now from Sunday night when Chris Rock made a joke, whether you think it's funny or not, as it relates to Will Smith's wife, basically because she had a shaved head. He was referring to the G.I. Jane movie that came out, 20-some years ago with Demi Moore. And in that movie, she shaved her head when she was going through the training that was going on in the movie. And he made a joke. Love G.I. Jane 2. Can't wait for it to come out. If you saw the clip, or at least the one that I've seen several times, Will Smith is laughing until he realizes that his wife doesn't think that it's funny, whereupon Will Smith walks up, smacks Chris Rock in the face kind of with an open fist. It looks like there was a microphone there as well. Some people are saying, oh, it's fake. That doesn't sound like a smack. Well, there was a microphone, one of those that come up from the center of the stage, and he hit that. And Chris Rock looked a little stunned and basically said that Will Smith just smacked the blank out of me. And, although it was the second lowest rated Oscar series or presentation award ceremony in the history of the event, there were still, I think, 15 million viewers that saw that assault/battery take place. I looked it up, and under the California criminal code out there, it's technically a battery. It's an offensive touching of another person. And everyone's saying, well, he should be charged. He should be charged. Why isn't he being charged? And then the L.A. County District Attorney basically said, well, the police talked to Chris Rock. He didn't want to pursue it, so kind of our hands are tied, if Chris Rock doesn't want to come forward. And so a lot of people are saying, well, that's just ridiculous. Why does that matter? Well, in theory, it shouldn't. Okay? In any criminal case, it always says in the caption, the United States of America versus the defendant, or the people of the state of Colorado or any state that you're talking about versus the defendant, or the municipality versus the defendant. And so that's what it is. It's not the victim bringing a case. That's a civil suit, which could be done in that particular case. The state is the one that comes forward and says, hey, we saw a crime take place and we are going to prosecute it. We really don't care if the victim wants it prosecuted or not. Our job as the state is to kind of protect good order and discipline, follow the rule of law. Now, it makes it certainly more difficult for the prosecution if the victim doesn't want to come forward. And think about it. That happens in domestic violence cases all the time. The police show up. Suddenly, one party realizes the other party is going to go to jail for the night. And, there's going to be protection orders, all that stuff. And they're like, hey, it's not really what happened. Nothing happened. recanting witnesses. That happens all the time in domestic cases. But somebody's going to jail in just about every jurisdiction that I'm aware of. It's not like the old days where they said, okay, fine, she's a little bloody, but you look a little roughed up as well, so why don't you guys just take a walk around the block and then, go to bed and resume in the morning. They used to do that. Not so much. Now the laws are basically somebody needs to get arrested if there's a domestic violence case. Because sometimes when they don't do that, we kind of have an example of what happens. Gabby Petito, for example, right? Brian Laundrie. There was a domestic dispute there. Probably Gabby Petito was the one that should have got arrested that night, or both of them. And it didn't. And, well, sometimes things escalate. So the police arrested her. So the thing is, you have 1 million people that saw the assault. Will Smith has apologized for the assault as it relates to Chris Rock. And, so we have an admission. Even if you didn't have Chris Rock want to be a willing participant in any prosecution, if the prosecutor really wanted to go forward, that's not impossible in this particular case. I think you could get his statement in as an excited utterance, which wouldn't violate the confrontation clause of the United States Constitution. And I'm not saying Will Smith needs to go to jail or anything like that, but it seems like there's a little bit of, dare I say, privilege if you're a successful, wealthy individual who can assault people on TV and get away with it. You kind of makes you seem like maybe things aren't a little fair. I've said this before. There's really two justice systems. There's one for all the super rich and powerful, and then there's one for the rest of us. And guess which one the rich and powerful don't play in. Hell, most of the time they don't get charged with anything. Exhibit A, Will Smith, right? Exhibit B, just about every politician in Washington, right? Everything always drags out. Oh, we're investigating it. Oh, we just don't think we're going to do it. Or then somebody will, resign to spend more time with their family, that kind of thing, right? And charges go away. It's a different set of rules for everybody else, bottom line. And I think that's why I think so many people are like, why? What do you mean? Because if you did that, or you had a parent at your kid's soccer game or football game and went over and smacked another parent, a coach, a referee, guess what? You'd be going to jail. You'd be charged. And so you think it's just a little unfair, so to speak. Certainly that case wasn't self-defense, although some people were of the mindset that, well, Will Smith was, chivalry is not dead. He was defending the honor of Jada Pinkett Smith. Well, yeah, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. Words aren't enough to go assault somebody. Maybe heat of passion, but the fact that he was joking about it, I don't think that would apply. I don't think it was consensual. I think Chris Rock didn't think he was going to get hit. So, it just shows privilege, and, call it what you will. But if that were you or me, we'd be arrested if we went up and assaulted somebody and 15 million people are watching. But that's okay. It's Will Smith. That's okay. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Everything's going to be okay. And you wonder why the Harvey Weinsteins of the world exist out there, right? Because everybody sees it. Everybody knows what's going on. But they're rich and powerful. Don't say anything. That's really, I think, the bigger issue here is that, it just seems like it to me that there's just two sets of rules kind of for us and then everybody else. Yeah, a lot of people in the comments are talking about that she stripped Will of his manhood when she cheated on him with her son's friend and told the world about it on TV. I didn't see that. I've heard about it, read about it, so to speak, but I didn't see anything. I mean, I know, I guess I have an open relationship, but hey, that's her style. And I think Chris Rock said today that he did not know that Jada Pinkett Smith suffered from alopecia, which apparently is a condition/disease that causes your hair to fall out. So I don't think he knew about that. So, he was having fun. He's a comedian, right? Can you imagine if you've ever been to a comedy show, the comedians always kind of find somebody to pick on in the crowd. Somebody just gets up and punches the attorney. Heck, every now and then I always get kind of that hostile juror. And I'm thinking, the guy's one of those guys that's always like, if you're charged with a crime, you're going to go to, you're guilty. They just didn't randomly pick somebody and put him over there in that defense chair. He's guilty. So literally I've told clients like, oh, I'm going to get rid of that guy and this is going to be fun. Right. And so I, usually get up there and, the guy's just hostile towards anything I say. Like, you're a defense attorney. I don't care what you're going to say. I'm like, okay, sir, just let me give you a hypothetical situation here. Okay. And I say, sir, does your wife work? Yeah. Well, yes, she does. And does she normally arrive home at a normal time? Well, yeah. Let's say for the sake of just making this example easy, say 6 p.m. She arrives home every night by 6 p.m. And this one particular night, she doesn't arrive home at 6 p.m. So then I asked the juror, working with my example, 6:30 comes by and you start calling her phone because you're getting worried. By 7:30, you maybe start calling some friends, maybe the office, see if she's working late. By 9 o'clock, you're calling hospitals because you have no idea where she is, what's happened, what's going on. And then you tell the juror, potential juror, and then you hear a knock at the door. And I didn't hit that as hard as I normally do because some people say when I hit the desk, it sounds very bam. And when the potential juror opens the door, there's a couple of fine men and women there, and they're in their little FBI windbreaker jackets, and they show their credentials and say, sir, we'd like to talk to you about your wife. Oh, good. Oh, my God. You're worried. Is she safe? She's okay. I'm like, sir, she's okay. She's down at the police headquarters. I'm like, what did she do? What did she do? And the police say, you know what? We've arrested her for bank robbery. And then I asked the juror, what would be the first thing that went through your mind? And they always say, every time, they always say, I don't believe it. Not my wife. And I say, oh, so what you're telling me is that you would then give your wife the presumption of innocence, right? You didn't believe it. And I tell them, well, that's what you have to do when you sit here as a potential juror to the defendant over there. Can you give him the presumption of innocence, which is basically, I don't believe it. That's what you have to say when the allegations are read. I don't believe it, to be a fair and impartial juror. And usually they're like, wow, whoa, 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 whoa. But I mean, that's different. I know my wife. Okay, I understand. But it's the same fundamental concept, the presumption of innocence. So, I don't know. Just the way. Let's see here. Let's see if a couple of questions here. Frank, notice Scott's voice sounds like Clint Eastwood's imitating grouchy juror. And it's always the grouchy juror. You can always tell they're just that curmudgeon. I can't believe I got to sit here from guilty people over there. They're making me come in here. I had to pay for parking. Yeah. They're Sally, the grumpy juror. I agree. No one would be slugged for a joke, however much it is in bad taste. Okay, the joke was probably in bad taste, even if you didn't know it. Like, you probably shouldn't make fun of people's body characteristics. I get that. But you can't go around punching people. And don't get me wrong. There's lots of people I would like to punch, but we don't get to do that in a modern, civilized society, so to speak. Might is not always right in certain circumstances. So lots of people commenting about this. Will should have been removed. I think he should have been removed. Because what if Will Smith had done it again? The Oscars, what it really boils down to, now they know that he is a hothead in a situation like that, they probably have to ban him. Because now, under most laws, like what if he gets upset again? He's going to go hit the next announcer or something along those lines. I don't know, right? I think for liability's sake, from the attorney point of view, I'd be like, Will Smith, man, you can't come back. You're a hothead. What can you do? Law RN. I like that, referring to my little presumption of innocence. I know. I come up with that. Pretty good, I think. What's your explanation for reasonable doubt? Well, I haven't used it. It kind of depends. Sometimes you know it when you see it. But I think a good one that I like to use is you tell the jury that you've heard the instructions, you've heard what reasonable doubt is. It's not beyond a shadow of a doubt. It's not beyond a shadow of any doubt, but reasonable doubt. Not a vague, imaginary, speculative doubt, but a doubt that would cause people to pause in matters of great importance. And you try to explain to him and say, maybe you pick up a pitcher of water, but we just have our CrimeTalk mug here. And say, ladies and gentlemen, imagine if this CrimeTalk mug was a crystal ball. And we could literally go back and see what took place on the night in question that has brought us all here together. Okay? And the crystal ball is going to show us exactly what happened, and we're going to be able to see exactly what was there. But before you could look into the magic ball, you have to give up something of value. Okay? So maybe it's, you go through the college student. Maybe it's next semester's college tuition. Maybe it's rent. Maybe that's that trip you want to take. Because when you look in the crystal ball, you've made your mind up, and then you look at it, and it's. I guess I should explain that better. Is you look in the crystal ball, and it's going to tell us exactly what happened on the night in question. But before you can look in the crystal ball, if you're wrong as to kind of what you conclude, you have to give up something of value. You have to give up the trip, maybe the new gutters you're going to get, the college tuition, the kids, hockey money, whatever it is, okay? And so if you're absolutely certain that you're 100% correct, that what took place, that the prosecution has proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt, that you should have no problem saying, I will basically bet that thing of value to look in that crystal ball to say that you're correct. Well, guess what? If you're not willing to bet that thing of value, ladies and gentlemen, guess what? That is reasonable doubt, right? Not a vague, imaginary, speculative doubt, but a doubt that would cause people to pause in matters of great importance. I don't know. Law RN, take that for what it's worth. Yeah, Jada needs to take several seats over her and Will. It sucks. I liked Will. I liked Will Smith too. I like Chris Rock. I mean, but Jada Smith's dress that evening, what the hell was that thing? It was like the big green thing that just kept going. It was like, man, are you kidding me? If Richard, if it was my ex, they were saying was a bank robber, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Well, Richard, in all the years of giving that example to jurors, potential jurors, I should say, I've only had one guy say, yeah, she did it. Most of them are like, I don't believe it. I'm defending her. How dare you? I should get up and slap you across the face for even saying such a thing, right? Okay, Susie. See, this is why, like we talked about today in the show, freedom of speech, right? Susie has information. Alopecia areata is an autoimmune disease. A friend of mine had it. Your hair can grow back with treatment if it works on you. Did her. But honestly, nobody cares about Jada, Will, or Chris. Okay. I didn't know that you could have it treated. Look like hitting Carlton from French Prince. Yeah. I know the question is going to be now, are people going to say, hey, we can't have Will Smith because he was starting his new show that he was producing, like the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air or something, like modern day version. So who knows? Rhiannon. Don't insult Jada's dress with Will Smith may slap me. I just, let's just put it this way. I mean, sure, it was a lovely dress. I'm sure it was very nicely made dress. Let's just say it wasn't my style. It looked like, damn, I hope I didn't miss you guys talking about poor Barry. What the hell he's living in. Prayers and forgiveness for him. But will the judicial system use so God-like? I laugh out loud. We can talk about Barry Morphew. We talked about the motions that were filed by the defense the other day regarding Barry Morphew. The prosecution responded to those motions, and basically, it always gets. I'm always interested in the responses of the prosecution when it comes to, we don't have to turn over discovery. I mean, you don't even have a constitutional right to discovery. I mean, maybe some exculpatory evidence, but, Brady v. Maryland and his progeny. But, you're lucky we give you anything, because back in the old days, we used to just, convict you kind of thing, right? And that's basically what the prosecution's response was. It always intrigues me. The defense is saying, hey, we haven't received all this stuff as it relates to the Barry Morphew, as it relates to discovery. But more importantly, we haven't received anything that was relating to exculpatory evidence. For example, the fact that the lead detective didn't think the case was ready for prime time, so to speak. And of course, and I was just looking at this before we started, was the statement of law. It always is funny to me that the prosecution acts like it's no big deal, right? Like, I got a case now, it's been 3 weeks. Dude, where's my discovery, right? Where's my discovery? Tomorrow begins the nasty letter writing. Politely stated, but nasty letter. I'm sure under you're very aware of your rules under Rule 16 and your obligations that you need to comply with. So where's my damn discovery? And so, yeah. So here's the Morphew case. And the Colorado Supreme Court has been explicit in their limitation of discovery in criminal cases. In general, discovery in criminal cases is governed by the Criminal Rules of Procedure 16. The rule describes each party's obligations and imposes deadlines. There's no general constitutional right to discovery in a criminal case, and Brady did not create one. Oh, okay. Rule 16 did, though. I always think that's ridiculous. You don't have a constitutional right to discovery. Of course you do. It's called due process. I mean, seriously, what a twit. Why would they cite that? I mean, my God. And they go on, as a constitutional matter, Brady and its progeny only require disclosure of exculpatory, impeaching, and mitigating evidence. Okay, and you would think that they'd also want to turn over the inculpatory evidence that shows that the defendant is, guilty. And you have an obligation, which the United States Supreme Court said it was a due process violation to not turn over exculpatory, impeaching, or mitigating evidence. Exculpatory, anything that would reduce the punishment or the likelihood that the defendant is the one that was guilty. Impeaching, anything that is inconsistent with what a witness has said. And mitigation evidence, anything that may reduce the punishment of somebody. Yeah, the prosecution, United States Supreme Court says you have to turn that over. But yet they always play these games. I just don't get it. Now, do I really think that the court is going to dismiss the Barry Morphew case for discovery violations? No. But, the judge could probably gut it if he finds that there is, in fact, a discovery violation and things are not being turned over in time. So anyway, the prosecution's motion goes on. It's just, it's the old, to the extent that the motion complains of not receiving information prior to when reports were written and all evidence actually obtained, oral statements are not required to be disclosed. There is no requirement that oral statements be reduced to writing or discovered. And they cite a case going back to 2003. In our view, the current rules of procedure only require the prosecution to provide the defense with written statements of witnesses or any written reports that quote or summarize oral statements made by a witness, which is always going to happen. The police investigators are going to provide a summary or a statement of what a witness said. They can't just say, ooh, I'm not going to write this down, right? Because then it looks like they made it up. So it's when prosecutors cite this stuff that they just look ridiculous, okay? And I've said this before, and I will say it again, and I believe it. Be wary of any prosecutor that wants to play games with discovery, because a good prosecutor is going to say, I'm going to give you whatever you want, and I'm still going to convict your guy, okay? It's always the ones that usually lack some trial skill or experience that want to play games with hiding discovery. And look at the cases over the years where people have been exonerated, where they spend 10, 20, 30, 40 years in prison. What is it that usually happens? It's the fact that there is there's usually discovery that hasn't been turned over. And who does that fall squarely upon? The prosecutor, right? So do it right the first time and just give it to the defense, okay? I just don't get it. I don't understand why prosecutors play games like that. And when prosecutors play games like that and they think, oh, I don't have to turn that over yet, Judge, it just creates issues. In the federal system, there are certain statements that don't have to be turned over until the witness has testified, okay? And they can say, Judge, we don't have to turn that over until the witness testified. And you know what most federal judges will say? Okay, that's fine. But I'm going to give the defense as much time as they need to review, study, prepare, investigate what's in that statement. It's called Jenks material. And the judge will then say, and I'm going to tell the jurors that that's all because the prosecution, the United States attorney, didn't turn that information over until now. And guess what most prosecutors are going to say? Judge, yeah, we'll turn that over. 30 days beforehand is perfectly fine. Because you're going to get it anyway. So why play games? I don't know. But they always do it. They always do it all the time. And basically, the prosecution response to the defense motion for all the sanctions is basically it's frivolous. It's overstatements by the defense. They're totally overreaching. And basically, Judge, you should do nothing. That's a recap of Barry Morphew where things stand. They've got motions hearings coming up again here in a couple of weeks. But guess what? This trial starts, Julie, what day is it? May 3rd, right? Maybe. It's March 29th. March 29th. And so here we are. Here we are. And they're still litigating documents that need to be turned over. They were still litigating expert reports that needed to be turned over. So yeah, it's gonna be let's just say the Barry Morphew thing. It's gonna be. I hope it's televised. I don't know. We may have to send Julie back down there, although it's down in Canyon City, right? Yeah, it's in Fremont County. Venus Gal. Defense is blowing a lot of smoke with most of it. I can't disagree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. Like I said, do I think that they're going to get the case dismissed? No. The case law is rather clear that the dismissal is an extreme remedy in any case by the court. I mean, you got to show some prosecutorial misconduct, like prove that the prosecution was literally lying or withholding evidence. Big hurdle to get over, right? So then the judge is going to have to ask the defense, like, okay, what do you want? What do you want me to do? Do you want a continuance? Because that's really the remedy. I mean, if they haven't turned stuff over, either A, the prosecution doesn't get to use it in their case in chief, or B, if you kind of want to use it and you need more time, then waive speedy trial. And I get it. So I don't think the judge is going to dismiss the case, but we'll see. Mercina Lady. These defense attorneys are tying up the, I think, courts with motions, clog up the court with paperwork, and rack up Barry's bill. He'll need to pay his defense team. I'm sure the bill is ticking away, right? Because that's what happens. Let's play the official theme song here.
Send lawyers, guns, and money.
Lawyers are expensive, ladies and gentlemen. Have that conversation on nearly a daily basis. Usually when somebody asks for a quote for a retainer, right? And they're like, whoa, wow. I mean, yeah, you're right. That's a lot of money. But what is your freedom worth, right? Or try to avoid issues. Usually people decide that that's, worth a fee. Just like when my, house is flooding and I need the plumber to turn it off and fix it. Really don't care what it's going to cost, right? Because it's an emergency. It was unexpected, but I need to have it done, and I need to have it done correctly. The problem with a lot of people today is everybody thinks they're a lawyer. Everybody's been to the law library. Everybody's Googled it. Well, there's more to it than that. If that were easy, then no attorney would be necessary. It would be like the complete revolution of the legal system where nobody needs a lawyer because it was all just so simple and you can just find it on a simple form. Yeah, some of the legal, but even then I wouldn't. No, you gotta have somebody who knows what they're doing. Just like like I said, hire the professional, right? Let's take a look here. Some more questions. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, as long as the motions are made in good faith, okay, there's nothing wrong with filing motions. Because guess what? When the government had to go back and write that motion, guess what they weren't doing? trying to track down that discovery, trying to coordinate witnesses, trying to outline, expert testimony, trying to prepare for trial, right? But guess what? Both sides do that. I had a homicide case once. It was, I'll save it, but I'll build it up here just a little bit. Homicide case. And I've told this before. My general rule is I like to go on a homicide case on a first setting. Give me the time up front. Let me get to arraignment. When I say not guilty, we got 6 months from that date to get to trial. And most prosecutors think, and even judges will say, well, you're not really ready to go, are you? Yeah, I'm ready to go. Because you set a date, Judge, and I expect that date. Just like when you set motion filing deadlines, I comply with that, even if I have to work late or work weekends or bring in other attorneys from the firm to work on something. We're going to get it done because, well, those deadlines matter. My client has rights. My client's in custody. He has just as much right to be out. So, and so I had a case once where we showed up. It was a trial setting. There was maybe a month left on speedy trial because I always set it a little bit of time because if the defense asks for a continuance, that 6 month period begins all over again. But if the prosecution asks for a continuance, it has to get continued within that 6 month speedy trial. So we showed up and we announced ready. And the prosecution's like, Judge, we can't, we lack an essential witness. I'm like, okay, Judge, we're ready to go. Sounds like lack of diligence on the prosecution's part to locate this essential witness. We're ready to go. Ready to go to trial, Your Honor. And the judge was looking, well, we can't do that. And I had blocked out the time. I figured, okay, whatever. And she goes, well, the only time I could do this was like next week or the week thereafter. I'm like, I'll accept it, even though it completely messed up, settings or whatever that I had. I'm like, I'll accept it, Judge, because I wasn't going to give the government the time to do what they needed to do. Okay? The government is like a big old steamroller. You know the kind. They flatten out all that asphalt out there. You've seen it everywhere in the city, out in the desert when they're paving all this stuff. And those things start off a little slow, right? Boom, boom, boom. But once they get rolling, man, you don't want to step in front of that thing because it's kind of tough to pump the brakes on it, right? So just remember, always go on the first trial setting. I mean, just little case in point, right? That whole Lori Vallow, Chad Daybell thing, I mean, I really think had they just gone to trial on the tampering with evidence, my humble opinion is that's all coming out of the same facts. And if they didn't charge it in time, that jeopardy would have attached. I think it was a compulsory joinder issue, and they could have been done with it. But they drugged their feet playing games on stuff, man. You don't litigate stuff. Motions are like a silver bullet. You only file them if you got a good faith basis for them. If you're going to file a bunch of crap that's just wasting everybody's time, guess what? You lose credibility with the court. Yeah. So, all right, let's see if there's a couple more questions here. Chris Rock did get a lot of new material for his next show. I totally believe with you. Is it Silly? Does a new judge want to televise it? Good question, J-Lo. I doubt it. Now, it's been a while, and this is the other thing that really irritates me. I am big on free speech, government open access. And I mean this seriously. Okay. I remember when I was clerking in law school, or you're a gopher working in a law firm, they would say, go down to the courthouse, copy this file. You went down there, you filled out your name, you put the case number, they got you the file. They maybe kept your ID, you photocopied it, what you wanted, and that was it. There was none of this suppressing the file because there's sensitive information. You wanted a copy of it, you got it. It's public information. And now in this electronic age, they suppress everything that everybody thinks is, ooh, this is sensitive. No, it's public record, all right? And it just irritates me. But everybody should be able to have access to any court file they want. I get if there's like some, divorce case, you're not going to have people have access to tax returns and things of that nature. But when it comes to a criminal case, it should all be done in the open. And I don't understand why. So I hope the new Judge Lama, I believe is how you pronounce his name, will allow expanded media coverage for the trial. I think it's obviously has a lot of attention. People deserve to know what happened. If you look at the cases that were controversial, look at George Floyd, right? I love the fact that the judge televised the George Floyd trial. Because if it wasn't televised and you couldn't go back and watch every single minute of it, people could say, oh, there was something the judge did. Oh, it's so unfair on either side, right? But if people get to see it for their own eyes, they can be their own judge, right? Look and say, yeah, guilty. The other case, obviously, was the Rittenhouse case. I'm glad that they televised that one as well. I think every court appearance should be televised, and not because I think attorneys want, most of the time will probably look silly by, a judge, I'd like to continue this. But the reality of it is in today's world, you should be able to watch what's going on in the court system. The court should be open, right? If they're not open in the public eye for anyone to see, then you can't have any trust in it. I mean, what are we going to have, secret trials like they do in Russia or China? We gave him a fair trial. You can't see it, but let me assure you it was fair. It was a good trial. It's the best trial ever. And it's over. And he's guilty, and he's going off to the gulags for, 15 or 20 years because he, said some things that were inappropriate. Yeah. Doesn't instill a whole lot of trust and confidence in that system, right? For the defendant, the world, the population, the citizens, right? Should all be televised. And that's why, I saw today's video, didn't really take off, but there's this case in Colorado. It struck down this cyberbullying thing because they're basically saying anything can be criminal. If you gave a bad review of a restaurant on Yelp, you could potentially be cyberbullying somebody. And, sometimes in a free society, there's things that are going to offend people. You have no right to not be offended. One of these days I'm going to write a book. I'm just going to say, in the real world, there are no participation trophies, ladies and gentlemen. You need to understand that. You need to tell those kids, as I used to tell my children, you know what second place is? The first loser, okay? That's the only thing that matters. And I mean that in a good way. Of course, I love my kids, and they didn't always win. But the point is they learned that they had to work hard, okay? Not everything is 9 to 5, right? You want to succeed, you got to go put in the extra hours. If somebody else is working 30 hours a week, guess what? Then you should be going to work 60 hours a week, and you're going to get ahead. It's just that simple. But most people don't want to do that. And they think, well, it all should be given to me, and I deserve it. No, nobody owes you anything. Nobody owes you anything. All right, we digressed. Mercina lady, innocent people deserve a good defense lawyer, but I don't feel that Barrys of the world do. I understand that, but everybody. All
right, lawyer
is entitled to a lawyer. Why, you say? That's right, it's a constitutional right. No matter how bad. Do I have my little Constitution over here? Maybe I moved it to my...
It's been a long time.
Sixth Amendment, right? Everybody's entitled to an attorney. And I do not, it's Sixth Amendment to the United States Constitution. This is pretty important here, ladies and gentlemen. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury of the state and district wherein the crime shall have been committed, which district shall have previously ascertained by law, and to be informed of the nature and cause of the accusation, to be confronted with the witnesses against him, to have compulsory process for obtaining witnesses in his favor. That's fancy word for subpoena, right? And to have the assistance of counsel for his defense. I'm telling you, I mean, the Bill of Rights, ladies and gentlemen, is the greatest thing in the world. Okay, I just saw this question. Law RN, that's why I don't trust juries if you're innocent. Bench trial. Never do a bench trial. I will take 12 good citizens every day over some judicial hack that is thinking, oh, we can get through this as quickly as possible. And, he gets paid by the state, wants to get retained next election. No, always take a jury trial. That's just the way it is. So jumping back to the Bill of Rights, pretty important. Sixth Amendment, like I said, in all criminal prosecutions, speedy trial. Now you may ask yourself, wow, why did those founding fathers and why did those states say we're not going to ratify the Constitution unless we have the Bill of Rights, which is the first 10 amendments to the Constitution? We all learned that in civics class, right? Well, because, think about it, ladies and gentlemen. What do tyrants do? Everything that is outlined in the Bill of Rights, right? They try to usurp, take away. Okay? It's simple. Let's take a quick look at them. The Bill of Rights. 1791, first 10 amendments. Think about this. Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech, the press, the right to the people to peacefully assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Right? So think about it. This is what I always say. Everybody acts like everything that goes on in the world acts like the first time it's ever come up, it's ever been an issue, and we are on the cutting edge of everything, right? No. Let's face it, ladies. It's all renewed, all right? It's kind of like those people that, every 6 months they give an award to that says, you came up with a new idea, this is great, which is really repackaging of something they did like 5 or 10 years ago, but they get their little, certificate of appreciation, and then they, in 5 or 10 years, they'll change it right back to what they were doing at that time. It's all been done before. And if you look at the Bill of Rights, this is why the founding fathers and the states wouldn't ratify the Constitution unless they existed, because they knew what tyrants do, right? First Amendment, make no law respecting establishment of religion, right? If you're in charge, you're like, this is the only religion. That's it. You can't do any other religion. You prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech. Look at what Putin did over there in Russia after he invaded Ukraine. He made it illegal to print false news, right? Fake news. Anything that didn't make him look good. Why? Do you think that Putin was the first tyrant in the world to say, don't write anything bad about me? No. All right. So freedom of speech, freedom of the press, the right of the people to peacefully assemble. What did Putin do over there when people were protesting his war in Ukraine? He arrested them. Do you think that Putin was the first tyrant in the world to say, we don't like what you're saying or protesting about out there, we're going to come arrest you? No. Tyrants have been doing it for thousands of years. Why do you think the Bill of Rights existed? Do you think they said, hey, let's do something radical here? No, it was based upon thousands of years of experience, ladies and gentlemen. The first 10 Amendment, the Bill of Rights, are there to protect the tyrants from coming into power, right? The right of a government to petition and redress of grievances, right? To be able to go to the king and say, this sucks, you suck, right? Freedom of speech, right? I mean, look how scary the world is today. Look how they cancel people. Why? Because you don't believe the same thing that we believe. And if you don't believe what we believe, you are, we've seen it all. What you put in whatever noun, adverb, adjective you want to put in there. You're an evil person. You want to, you want to kill all the people in the world. You don't believe in whatever. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. This is not anything new. The Second Amendment, right? A well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall, once again, mandatory, shall not be infringed. How simple, plain language is that? All right? And we like all the amendments, right? What's the first thing they did in Ukraine when they got invaded? The army wasn't big enough to handle it all. So they started passing out weapons to all the citizens, right? Their militia, the people. Anyone, 17 to age 60 had to stay in the country and fight? And what's the first thing they do when tyrants come in? They disarm everybody because we can't have them shooting back at the tyrants. Think about it, ladies and gentlemen. Third Amendment, no soldier shall in the time of peace be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in the time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. Think about it. That's what the British did. They would come in and say, we are going to take over your house, your church, and we're going to put troops in here, and you're going to feed us at no expense to the government. You will not be reimbursed for that. The Fourth Amendment, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures, shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularity describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. If you're not particular enough in your warrant, it is a general warrant. It was a general warrant back in 1791. It's a general warrant today in 2022. Why do they have that? Because if the king didn't like you or whomever was in charge, they would come search your house and look for you to say you must be plotting against the king. And we know it when we see it, and we're just going to keep coming in here. And they're going to harass you at every corner, kind of a show me your papers kind of thing, but we're going to come in and look for them. Fifth Amendment, no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment of an indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces or in the militia when in actual service or in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any person be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. Think about it. What does the tyrant do? Oh my gosh, they're going to say, we're going to charge you. We don't like you. We're going to charge you with a capital offense. So you actually have to have charges, not just go throw somebody in jail. Kind of goes back to that whole speedy and public trial, right? Jeopardy, just because maybe a jury finds you not guilty again, we don't like you, we're going to go back and do it again and again and again until we get you on something. Not going to do that. Due process of law, that's pretty important, right? Right against self-incrimination. Not to be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And, we can't take your private property unless we pay you for it. Why? Because that's what tyrants do. They roll into town. We like your property. We're going to take it. We're going to throw you in jail because we don't like you. You speak out. So we're going to come take your stuff as a punishment for that. Sixth Amendment, we talked about. The accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury. I mean, that's all they ever wanted, right? Like, because the king would be like, I'm going to appoint the judge, and he's going to answer to me. And if he doesn't give me the result that I want, his head will be, removed along with yours, right? It's that simple. That's what tyrants did. And the people are always a check on the power. The judge may think, and usually does think, that the defendant is guilty, but the people have the ultimate say. The people are the check of the government. Just like, the people can remove politicians, I almost said criminals, can remove politicians by voting them out. A jury can say not guilty, hasn't proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt. The right to confront and cross-examine witnesses. Think about it. Could you imagine being tried with no witnesses? Or you have one person who wasn't even there say, we think this is what happened, and not be cross-examined? I mean, think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Seventh Amendment basically deals with the right to trial to resolve civil matters in suits of common law where the value and controversy shall exceed $20. That's since been raised. The right of trial by jury shall be preserved, and no fact tried by a jury shall be otherwise reexamined in a court of the United States than according to the rules of common law. The Eighth Amendment, excessive bail shall not be required, nor excessive fines imposed, nor cruel and unusual punishment inflicted. Right? King tyrants, what do? Hold you in jail forever. Take away all your money, fine you so you never get ahead. Cruel and unusual punishment. You didn't want to be quartered and pulled apart by horses, right? Kind of cruel. The Ninth Amendment, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. So just because we didn't write them down here doesn't mean that there are not other rights inherently held by people that are given to you by birth, so to speak. And 10th Amendment, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited by it to the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people, which basically means, we're going to have federalism, right? Weak national government, strong states. That's what they said. One could argue the shift has occurred. We blame FDR for his attempt to pack the court, right? Because he didn't get the legislation he wanted. He attempted to pack the court, and the court crumbled and said, fine, we'll give you what you want, which has created the modern day society of, the federal government can do just about everything they want. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is what I'm talking about. Tyrants, the first 10 amendments. They're there to protect against the tyrants. Tell me everything that is not in those 10 amendments is not what every tyrant does around the world, right? It's nothing new. It is nothing that has not been done before. Tyrants have been around since the beginning of time. Tyrants are going to be around, again and again and again. And the only way you get rid of tyrants is that you basically, you have to go punch the tyrant, the bully, in the nose. So just think about that. And next time you think, somebody's accused of something really mean and we don't like it, he shouldn't be able to get a good attorney. Well, it's constitutional right. And the thing I don't get is why people would not exercise their constitutional rights. I just don't get it, how quickly people can do it. You see these man on the street kind of things where people are like, oh, I'd give up that, right? Yeah, you betcha. Let them search anything they want. I don't have anything to hide. Okay. You want the police to just come rummage through there? Trish, Scott is always on when he talks about the Constitution. But ladies and gentlemen, we can talk true crime stuff all day long, but what is criminal law? What is true crime at the end of the day? It's constitutional law. That's what we're engaging in. Due process, Fourth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Sixth, Eighth. That's constitutional law. I mean, think about it. The founding fathers, the people that were over here, they seem like they were pretty, there's always going to be that 10% rule, right? You're going to spend 90% of your time on 10% of the knuckleheads causing trouble. But I don't think it was a really high crime district during that particular time, right? But they were smart enough to say, we've tried this before. It didn't quite work out so well, so we're going to do something radical. We're going to say these are rights not given to you by the state or the king. These are your God-given natural rights that exist to you, so that you have them, and they are always there. The Bill of Rights are individual rights, and neither the feds or states may usurp them. I agree, Jack. I totally agree with you. Blonderella, you must understand the core. Exactly. And so when people say, how can you represent those guilty people, right? I'm not defending what maybe somebody has done, but I'm protecting the Constitution. Like I've said it once and I'll say it again. If we let the government railroad guilty people, they will start doing it to innocent people as well, because they think and they know that they can get away with it. Like they don't turn over discovery, or they forget to, list that one witness that may have some exculpatory information for it, right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't care what political party you're on. But really, if the government says something, I'm usually going to go the complete opposite direction of whatever they're saying. If they say fine, everything is okay, be worried. If they say things are bad, that means they're about to get really freaking bad, okay? So just remember, politicians, I know, brace yourself. You may find this hard to believe. Politicians lie, okay? They have spokespeople that come out and lie because they think that we are all stupid, okay? Which is why I've said for so long, you have to be able to think for yourself, okay? What's the first thing you have to do? You have to question any assumptions in any argument. What is the assumption that they're saying? Well, first of all, they say, you all are stupid. The American public doesn't need to know. They're too stupid. They'll listen to anything we say, no matter how contrary what is going on. They're too stupid to figure it out. So just go out and tell them what we want them to hear. And eventually, maybe somebody will say it in the press, and then we're good to go. Right? In today's world, there's so much information out there, YouTube and other independent sources. Why would you take somebody else's word for it what is their motive to lie, right? In government, their motive to lie is to remain in power, to take your money. I have no motive. I guess my motive is, we get some subscribers and wow, I can make in 1 month what I can make in 1 day on YouTube. Okay. Or maybe the motive is people will actually start, getting excited about the Constitution and say, wow, that's so simple. How can they be so confusing when it comes to all this stuff when it just says these plain, simple words, right? So, all right, we digress. Uncivil law. Scott, you can disagree without being locked up. Let's see. There's no... Anna, look at Russia. There is no tyrannical state. Everything's a rich man's game. Well, Deborah, everything's a rich man's game. In some respects, it is. But I still think America provides the greatest opportunity for anyone to become successful. If you look at the list of people that are billionaires and CEOs of companies, most of them came as immigrants with a few bucks at most in their pocket. And they just worked hard. They were smart about it. And I think that's the greatest thing about this country is it doesn't matter what your last name is, where you went to school, who your daddy was, all that kind of good stuff. It doesn't matter. Anybody can be successful here. No guarantee. It's not going to be given to you. You're going to have to go bust your butt. But I haven't traveled. I've traveled a lot of countries over it. And I'm telling you, I still think with all our flaws, this is still a pretty good place to be. So, Rebecca, I agree, Scott. Free speech is the First Amendment for a reason. Absolutely. And it just is so, it just amazes me every day that people are okay with other people, saying they can't say something, or the government passing laws to prohibit somebody's speech. And I'm not talking about true threats. Those are different. But just because somebody doesn't like somebody's opinion, that's just scary stuff, man, because I guess it's great as long as you're on the side of all the opinions. But what happens if something changes and now all your opinions and your ideas are wrong? And listen, there are a lot of people out there that think the world is flat, right? I tend to think that that's not true. I even think that maybe it's a little stupid to believe that. But I don't think that we should go around banning people that say the earth is flat. Who knows? Maybe they're the ones that are actually right, and we are the ones that are incorrect. I don't think so, but guess what? Think of all the things where science or what have you throughout the world where they thought a particular way was the way it was, and it turned out not to be so down the road. You could probably think of a couple examples that happened in just the last couple of years. Just saying, ladies and gentlemen. And when you start infringing on people's right to say things, it becomes a scary, scary world. Because they're coming for you eventually, because they always eat their own. They do. Because witch hunters have to hunt. And so even if you're on the right side of the witch hunters, they're coming for you. Because eventually you're not going to be supportive enough, or you're not more supportive than the next guy. And therefore, then they're coming for you, ladies and gentlemen. It's happened before. But everybody acts like they have a memory span of the last 10, 20 years, and nobody wants to read anything about history because I guess it's not on a YouTube video or something like that. Let's see here. I'm happy to pay taxes for our teachers and police officers and to build roads. Don't get me wrong. We all have to pay taxes, but no one should have to pay more than is reasonably necessary. And there was a great attorney here, and I won't mention his name, but let's just say he was very, very successful. He started out as a criminal defense attorney, and then he started doing some class action work because he was a trial lawyer. They brought him in to do that, and he did very, very well. And I remember after seeing that he had won this big case, and he was in court, and I'm kind of like, wow, what are you down here with all those little street lawyers? Like, shouldn't you be like buying a home in Hawaii or something? And he's like, I actually did. I'm like, oh, okay. And but he still liked to do criminal defense work. And we were talking about something, and he goes, listen, whatever your political persuasion, everybody could use a little tax relief. And I listen, everybody, no one wants to pay more for taxes. Come on, people. That's ridiculous. Nobody wants to. Scott, could a judge appoint you if someone can't afford a defense attorney? Possibly, maybe in the state of Colorado or in the U.S. District of Colorado, but that's the S. Brook, send your kids to a good school. Boy, I cannot stress that enough. Get an education, man. Get an education. And I'm not talking necessarily have to go to college. Just get a skill, man. Just get a skill. I don't care what it is. The more you learn, the more you earn. Bottom line. I don't know. Like, I wish I could edit videos like really good. I wish I had that skill, but I don't. Let's see here. A couple more questions before we head off to our Patreon show. If you'd like to continue the conversation, where you can actually call in and talk to us. Conjunction junction. What's your function? Okay. Gene change. Here's a super chat. Hey Scott, did they get away with charging Maxwell with such vague charges, saying multiple alleged victims? Why weren't these victims testifying at trial? Well, some did in fact testify. Okay, because the prosecution, in most cases, other than maybe murder, they need somebody to come in and say, that's the bad person that did this to me, right? That's why they always make that big dramatic scene in court. Do you see the person in the courtroom that did this to you? Yes, he's right there, seated at counsel table in the white shirt with the red maroon tie. And you look down, it's like, he just identified the defense attorney. Okay, great. I mean, no, the other guy said, the DA is quickly released. But they have to have the person come in. If you have a conspiracy, they can lump it in, and maybe you don't have to have all the people come and victims testify. Listen, and let me tell you, I was in. It was a rather recent case on a plea agreement in federal court, and the language made very specific, and I had not seen this language before, that says this binds the entire United States Attorney's Office, regardless of any, jurisdiction or state issues. And I'm like, I wonder why they put that in there. And then I think to myself, oh, yes, Ghislaine Maxwell. That's why. Because remember, I still think that's one of her better issues on appeal, which is she was the one subject to this. Sounds very Bill Cosby-esque, doesn't it? So you think maybe somebody's worried about that somebody from, some bureaucrat at the Department of Justice is now pushing it down to all the local offices to do that? Just a little something to think about. Just something to think about. All right. Can you believe how fast this goes? I cannot believe it. Literally, and not because I like to hear myself talk, but like the questions that come in, I could do this all day. I could do this all day. Maybe I should take a Saturday and just go live for the entire day. We'll just be like a talk show. We'll have the call-in number. We'll just keep going until everybody stops, right? All right. I want to thank Frank. I want to thank Julie. I want to thank all our moderators out there. The best, Jen Lowe, best mod in the world. She's always there. Big shout out to her. And so we're going to go do our Patreon show. Like I said, we have little things like the Magic 8 Ball. Oh, there's the Magic. Ooh, there's the Magic 8 Ball. We've got the old school Magic 8 Ball right there. And then we got the high-speed low drag Magic 8 Ball right there. That's about awkward trying to figure that out. Right there. And we also give you the secret call-in bat phone number where you can talk to us. So we're going to do that. And last week I said it was a busy week. I did Houston, Tulsa, Denver. It was a busy week, so we didn't get to do as many videos. But one of the videos that we did put up, I was over there on Plane Talk, where I was flying into Tulsa International Airport, and it was completely pitch black and dark. I mean, it looks dark. But then the night, once it breaks through the clouds, it's pretty good. So if you want to take a look at that, you could, okay? Because we did that. We took the cameras up. DTC Primetime Super Chat. How prevalent is lack of evidence for seemingly guilty or suspect people to not be prosecuted? It just depends. I mean, there's so much crime out there. I mean, think about it, where somebody steals your car, somebody steals something from your garage, something along those lines. How often are those cases prosecuted unless you literally get caught in the act? Right? Lack of evidence. Don't have somebody to ID them. That kind of thing. So, yeah. Happens quite often. Probably more than you all would possibly want to think about. And I mean that serious. I said this years ago. If people knew the amount of crime that existed in the world today, they would be shocked. They would be shocked. They would literally lock themselves in their home at night, assume the fetal position, usually with a large caliber weapon of some type, and not come out until it was safe and sunny out. Okay, you only hear this much on the evening news. You maybe read this much in the newspaper. You know, the big true crime cases that are out there that intrigues everybody's interest, those are the exceptions to the rule. But there's probably 10, for every one of those, there's another 100 cases that are very similar that just don't get the news because it didn't make the evening news. Or usually it's because it's not a young, attractive, or older woman that captures everybody's attention. I mean, it's just the way it is. So, all right. Thanks for watching. If you haven't become a Patreon, you can do that, and then you get the secret link. If you are a Patreon, thanks for being patient. We'll see you in a few minutes. Have a wonderful night. We'll see you next time on Crime Talk.